How to Run Your Business Online, hosted by Propy. For this week's episode, we're going to cover some topics: trends that become standards, how crypto, blockchain, NFTs impact real estate, crypto versus fiat, blockchain versus traditional records, and the future of NFTs. So we are so pleased to have today two of our guests, Amy Cheroux, who has become a curated learning and prop tech consultant. You've got a fantastic background in real estate, and my goodness, you've become a leader, a thought leader in the industry, and you're also a member of the Crypto Real Estate Alliance. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we have Steve Bince, who's a founder of Insights Realty Advisors, and you're also a member of the Alliance. And you've been a real estate agent and also an innovator and entrepreneur, and you hold license in 45 states and counting.
Yeah, up to 48 now.
Wow.
But yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we welcome our live stream attendees, and hope you'll come away with some exciting information today. So I will pass the baton over to Amy to kick us off with what you'd like to share with us today.
Fantastic. So let me make sure the slide deck is in its proper location. And can you see my slides okay?
That's great.
Fantastic. Well, you've already met us, so that's kind of what we look like. We actually look like our photos, so we're really proud of that.
It's very non-real estate trend that we actually look like our headshots.
Yeah, that's a private joke, of course, in real estate. Because you meet people and they look like their picture never looks like what they look like now. What we want to chat about are some pretty strong topics that are really impacting the real estate industry. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But we want to remind you that what we're talking about now are going to be standards. They may seem like trends, but might not seem like trends, but they're going to be standards. And just like Internet of Things, right? The three things on the screen, even 2 years ago, we really didn't even think about that these would be irrelevant. Steve, you can just let's quickly go through and I'm not going to play the video, but oh my God, stinking adorable.
Yeah, so the on the left is a video of my daughter when she was, I think it was 3, and inaudibly asking Alexa in our house to play a Mickey Mouse Christmas song for her, which just like, it blows people's minds that if you listen to this audio, you can't understand a thing that she is saying, but yet Alexa knows exactly the song that she is asking for. And these are things that, 5-10 years ago, people are like, that will never happen. Number one, I'll never have these in my house. And number two, they'll never give me what I want. And yet they do both of those things. And we see that accelerating every single day.
And of course, in the middle of the screen is Uber, and the fact that we can have food delivered from Dunkin' Donuts through an Uber is something we did not think about even before COVID. And of course, on the last picture on the right, Ring doorbell, there's a lot of great things. We've solved crimes, we've solved murders, we have protected our family. We know what's going on with our kids when we're not home. So pretty crazy. Steve, anything on that before we get cooking?
No, I just say that the point we're trying to make here is that, right now, a lot of people out there, maybe not our audience here today, who may be more advanced, but a lot think that, this is just kind of getting started. But the growth path of the topics we're covering today has just been exponential in the recent past, and it'll continue to accelerate, just like all of these trends have to become standards.
So we want to chat with you about these trends that have become standards. Of course, cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFT, smart contracts, decentralization. Those are all the things that we know are going to impact real estate. And we want to talk about those things today. So the first thing we want to talk about is the difference between crypto and fiat. Think about this from a perspective of what we want to share today is some of the language, because some of us are pretty savvy who are coming to these webinars, but that you're getting asked these questions all the time from other people. It's such a hot topic. So we thought we would dial things back here today and share with you some content that when people say, what are you into? What are you doing? Here are some language, some sound bites that you can use to help people understand, to get them on board. So the difference here between crypto and fiat, they're both currencies, right? They both share similar attributes. Both are mediums of exchange that can be used to store and transfer value. They can both purchase goods and services. Both are legal. Both can be used for trading and investment. Both rely on widespread consumer trust to function as a means of exchange. And they both have their value governed by economic factors such as supply and demand, work and scarcity. However, there's 5 major differences. With cutting out the middleman and disrupting the traditional financial system, crypto advocates decentralization and individual empowerment. So crypto is their fuel really for a total new system, which you all know. So we can be our own bank, right? We can decide how that's going to work. So, excuse me, Steve, if you want to maybe talk about some of the terms here, that would be great.
Yeah, I think the first aspect is the control. So who is actually in control of these assets? Decentralized versus centralized. I think those are really pretty clear. But also going into how are these types of currencies governed, and that relates to the value of them and how interchangeable they are. And those are some of the applications that we're seeing, in the real world of real estate specifically, is that a more decentralized arrangement allows for them to be spent faster, easier, in more ways, that ultimately facilitates more transactions. And that's specifically with whether it's paying for a house itself, or using a token to complete a transaction on the blockchain using the Propy platform. And so that decentralized nature allows for a much broader use of the currency. And that kind of goes into the global nature of cryptocurrency as well. And the fact that it's peer-to-peer. So you don't need that centralized location to be able to process these transactions. I've had clients, including myself, walk into a bank and feel kind of crazy that I'm still getting a bank check to close on a transaction. Whereas in our new world that we're all in the midst of experiencing, we can utilize a smart contract to transfer cryptocurrency, not wait for the clerk's office to open, because we can record it on the blockchain and validate ownership right away. And so these are the changes in the real world applications of how crypto and fiat are a little bit different, where one is very, very streamlined and one is very clunky.
I will just share, when people ask, what is it with crypto? I mentioned to them peer-to-peer. I said, every other part of our life, we are comfortable with peer-to-peer. I have a photo I want to share with someone. I can open up my email and share it with them. And there's no third party that's telling me whether I can share a photo. But when you get to the finance, get to fiat, that's where all of those third party disintermediaries are. And that's what blockchain and crypto is solving, and it's coming into the real estate in a big way. So we just wanted to mention, and this is pretty, well, it was worth 60,000 when we did this presentation. We just wanted to remind everybody that if someone's new, remind them that there are right now, and this is going to change soon, there's 2 big platforms. The Bitcoin, of course, we have people who are solid into Bitcoin, and we have people who understand the power of the Ethereum blockchain, because a lot of the real estate transactions are being done on Ethereum only right now, but anything can change. We also just put up the 2 other terms that we think you want to make sure people know they understand, because I'll have people, literally, we did a presentation and I have people emailing me, get on the phone and tell me what I should buy. I'm like, no, I am not giving you financial advice. But I tell them, check out altcoins. Those are coins that are not Bitcoin. And there's so many of them that do amazing things. And then, of course, we did joke about the meme coins. Some of the ones, I think there was the squid coin that was created when that movie came out, which is a big fake. So just to let people know that those terms are out there. And I'm going to move on, Steve, if that's okay, to the more important stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the next topic, which I think is also very important to be able to articulate to people so they understand why you want to get into what you're getting into is blockchain versus traditional records, right? There is 3 areas, again, that we want to talk about: control, security, and automation. And again, you'll see some of the same words that you saw before, but Steve, I'll let you kind of get into the weeds here.
Yeah, for sure. So just like cryptocurrency versus fiat, decentralized versus centralized in terms of the traditional records, if we want to verify a blockchain transaction, we can go on Etherscan or other resources and take a look at the individual transactions that are happening. Or if we want to verify traditional records, we have to either wait for the county clerk to open and go down there ourselves, or look on some sort of online database. And a lot of counties don't even have their records digitized yet. And so it makes that process very clunky. Second is security. So blockchain is immutable, just meaning it can't be changed. One block connects to the next, connects to the next, connects to the next. And so you can't go and change one without there being somebody that says, wait a second, that doesn't look right, essentially. Versus traditional records, which can be relatively easily fraudulent if somebody really wants to. And that can be in deeds, mortgages, any number of records that somebody can ultimately record something that is fraudulent and cause some problems. Much lower risk of that in blockchain transactions. And last is automation. I think that's a big focus here, where inside of COVID, I think one of the takeaways that I've had and that I've discussed with others is that we value our time more. And so we want to know, how can the next wave of whatever it is that's available to us really lead to more efficiency, more time to do the things that we want to do, as opposed to the things we don't want to do. And so smart contracts are enabled by blockchain transactions being a possibility. And these are self-executing, trackable, immutable, much easier to get done without a lot of intermediaries, versus the very manual process that we deal with in a lot of contracts right now. And ultimately, that leads to more opportunity to get your time back by doing the things that you're good at and eliminating the things that you are just doing as a clerk of the transaction.
And this is really the power of the Propy platform, in my humble opinion. Easy to use. And if you're used to doing online digital transactions, it seems very familiar. But the beautiful thing is we're not dealing with a centralized organization, is now decentralized, and things are actually being saved on the blockchain, which is amazing. So blockchain, we had a couple of terms we wanted to make sure that everyone was comfortable with. So I'm going to just kind of bring them in here. And again, these are things that we get asked all the time. So blockchain, block, list of records linked together by cryptography containing transactional data. Now, remember, people can see blocks of information, but only those of us who own the data can get into each block on the chain. So that's important to know. And I get asked that a lot by newbies. Chain. Each block contains information about the previous block, connecting the transactions together. And that is what Steve was talking about. But Steve, I love how you explained this real estate application here for blockchain.
I think that this is what's really powerful, is how do we actually use this in real life? And the crazy thing is that despite people thinking that this is new or trendy, this Vermont legislation is actually from 2016, where it basically says that any digital record stored on blockchain is basically a state recognized record of that document or transaction. And that's been since 2016. But it also shows you that not a lot happened between 2016 and now, or maybe a year or two ago. And now the growth from that year or two ago to now is just exponentially faster and bigger. And there's other states following suit. So Arizona, Ohio, California have either recently passed or are actively discussing legislation related to documents on blockchain. And that's the real important thing here, is that once states are able to recognize these types of transactions, and they replace essentially the county clerk being involved, oh man, does that create some efficiencies and eliminate delays with title companies and recording and funding, and all sorts of other dominoes start to fall. And that to me is the cool stuff.
So think about it. 2008 was when Bitcoin was birthed. That was only how many years before we already had legislation in place and no one even knew about it. That's crazy to me, crazy. So we do want to talk about another concept which you're hearing everywhere, probably the most common term being talked about, which is the NFT, non-fungible token. And we wanted to make sure that you understood what that was, also to be able to articulate to people who are hearing it. And we're doing NFT on this graph versus crypto token. So again, there's three aspects of it that we want to share with you: scarcity, applicability, and value. And it's very different. So, we're all just learning now about crypto tokens. And of course, we talked about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and all the altcoins that are out there, thousands, and of course, meme coins. And that's on the right, but now we have the NFT. And I know you love this topic, so go for it, Steve.
Yeah. So first is the scarcity of it, the scarcity aspect. So NFTs are unique. Each has a digital signature. No two are the same, hence the non-fungible aspect, meaning that they do have some uniqueness to them, versus a crypto token, which are interchangeable. They're equal in value. They can be traded one for one or on an exchange, one for another. And there's really no difference from one pro token, as an example, to another. They're the exact same. They do the exact same thing, hold the exact same value. Versus two different NFTs are completely different, could hold two different values, could even be two different pieces of a tangible object, lots of different applications. Second is the applicability. So you can, as we have seen recently, you can NFT anything. Jack Dorsey NFT'd his first tweet for over $3 million. I mean, that's crazy. But you can turn anything into an NFT. Versus a crypto token, which is more limited. There has to be a project attached to it in some way, even if it's a squid coin and ends up going nowhere and doing nothing. But there has to be some basis for the project in general for that token to be applicable. And just like an example of that would be the Pro token, or there would be an Ethereum token, any number of other tokens. And the value is based on the asset with NFTs. So basically, what is it representing? What is it tied to? And how valuable is that thing that somebody wants? Hence the uniqueness, versus a crypto token, which is largely based on the quantity that you have. So value is derived from just how many of them you have, like how many Bitcoin do you have, versus whether you have a unique something that is more desirable than another unique something. And so very different, but kind of confusing that they're both referred to as tokens. You got to be aware of what it is that you're actually buying.
And how does an NFT impact real estate? Well, many of you know about the first home that was exchanged as an NFT, the house in the Ukraine. And now we're hearing about people, real estate agents and consumers who want to sell their homes as NFT. Remember, it's no banks, no, all the different third parties that get involved. It's just done. And now they own the NFT. Where I see the value, and Steve, I know you and I have talked about this. For me, I think this is going to impact fractional share or legacy homes, right? So for me, I'm going to do this probably in this next year. I have a property that I'm going to create an NFT and share it with my children as part of as part of the wealth I'll be sharing with them. And we'll do it as a fractional share. So they both will own part of it. To do a fractional share now with typical real estate is insane. I teach it. I teach people how to do it, and it's insane to me. So I'm excited to see how it will work as an NFT. Does that make sense, Steve?
It totally does. And I think in the background as well, there's an application that perhaps you wanted to get financing for the property that you are NFTing. And there is an application for NFTs in mortgages as well, for essentially crowdsourcing funding for it. You can buy a piece of the mortgage. There may even be a futures contract out there that you can buy a piece of the contract that exists in the future. We're seeing professional athletes NFT their contracts. So there's any number of applications. We're really just starting to see how innovation is happening here. And it's really cool to watch this and start to think about this. There's even lending going on against Bitcoin, because a lot of the exchanges like Coinbase will think that it's so secure that they can lend against it. So if you have $100,000 worth of Bitcoin right now, you can go and get a loan for $40,000 against that Bitcoin without selling any of it. So instead of going and getting a mortgage or a home equity line or some sort of other financing to go and purchase an investment property, you can use your Bitcoin to do that. Although indirectly, it's still funding a future purchase of real estate. And that's the cool stuff to watch.
Think about it. So they're letting you borrow $40,000. That means they feel confident, and I'm not giving any financial advice here, that Bitcoin will stay above 40. I mean, that's what they're saying, literally, right? They have to, because they're hedging their bets that they will recoup their money. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's telling.
The other thing I heard before we move on is I was actually just at the NAR convention, and people were saying historical homes, family homes that have been legacy homes, homes that have been in a family. If they NFT it, they will always own a piece of it, even if it gets sold over time. That was interesting. I don't think anyone would have ever entertained that 5 years ago. Like, you sell it, it's ours. Now, could you imagine that if there was a home in your family that you could always, your grandkids' kids will know, we still own a piece of the NFT of the family home. I don't know. I think that's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, it's a great way, for you, for generational wealth, and for others for, memorability,
I agree. So these were just some of the ones that we talked about, and I'd love to see if there's any questions, and we can go a little bit deeper in this. We're kind of speed dating here, but I think we're okay. Here's some famous NFT sales. There's the Jack Dorsey sale of his first tweet. Unbelievable. And then the one on the right is the sale of the home in the Ukraine for 36 ETH. And then, of course, all of those crazy NFTs that are being sold right now. It's crazy.
I wonder, with Jack Dorsey stepping down now as CEO, if that NFT has gone up, down, like what. I'm curious how it impacts it. But anyway, maybe an interesting part 2 update on that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because the new guy was putting his parameters down yesterday. I was listening to it on the news. So yeah. That's a really good point. So just also for some information, just to make sure that you can communicate to others as we get excited into this, we have a couple of other terms here that we want to just share with you as we're wrapping up. And if you have any other questions, non-fungible versus fungible, right? NFTs hold unique information. No two are alike. Where cryptocurrency, they can be interchanged. Value, NFTs represent items, right? As opposed to cryptocurrency, which is value based on their application or their ability to exchange. There is, I want to talk about that event that's going on in Miami right now. But then for me, and Steve, you can add your comments on this in a minute, but I'm intrigued because I very much, as I mentioned, fractional home ownership is something I think is powerful, as well as Airbnbs and investment properties. I think all real estate people should own real estate in some way, shape, or form. But the previous owner of Dotloop and one of the previous owners at Zillow started a company called Pacaso, Pacaso, and they do fractional ownership of very high-end homes. I just saw one, Steve, that came on in Santa Barbara where my family lives. You too can own a fractional ownership for $1 million. I think the house is worth about $6 million. So 6 lucky people will have 6 ownership.
And by the way, on the Pacaso platform, you can pay for that investment by way of BitPay in cryptocurrency. So, they're really doing a lot to kind of close the loop here on utilizing everything in this space.
And we'll see if they actually do anything with NFTs, which will be interesting. So that is basically what we have. We did want to share some other resources that, whether you're new to crypto or you want to go back and look at some more information, these are some pretty powerful. There was one that we don't have on here that I just got, which was Consensus, I believe is the name of it. Do you know that one? But maybe you can talk about these real quick, Stephen. Let me see if I can find it, because one of our other Alliance member sent it to me this morning and said, make sure you talk about this one. So let me see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so just on the left, various wallets that are sort of varying difficulties, I would say. Coinbase, pretty simple, also an exchange, so you can sort of do everything all in one place. Intermediate, there's a couple listed there. Intermediate, we just mean that there's a little bit wider of investment opportunity overall. And then if you're the ultimate geek, if you're here, you probably already know what that is. If you are the ultimate geek, if you're not, go check out Ledger Nano and have your mind blown a little bit. On the right, just various websites. I'd also encourage you to utilize the Propy website. Lots of great resources, blog posts. Gwyneth is a thought leader in this space as well. It puts out a lot of really great content, and so tons available to go and explore as wide and deep as you want.
Steve, I've been talking to some other pretty strong people in the crypto world, and they're still saying Coinbase is one of the safest wallets unless you have a physical wallet. And we have a great question in the chat, which we can end up with in just a minute. How do you feel about that? Does that ring true to you, the whole Coinbase, what I just mentioned?
Yeah, I think what Coinbase has really prided themselves on is that security aspect and sort of being the end-to-end aspect of it. And so, they obviously have a lot of interest in making sure that any assets that are purchased on their exchange are also secure. So that makes sense to me. And there's nothing moving around, right? So everything is just sort of all in one place. And by the same token, the important part of security is knowing what you're investing in and what the project is behind it, not sharing your recovery keys or any other sort of identifying information. It's all the basics. But there's going to be more and more scams coming out that are very creative. There's a lot of innovative people in this space. Some will use it with malintent. And so you just got to be careful. But it doesn't surprise me that that would be a general consensus.
So the one other site, I put it in the chat, is actually www.consensys.net. It really gets in depth on Ethereum, since Ethereum is the blockchain where most of the real estate transactions happen. So I put that in the chat box. And you talk about scams. I know it's going to happen. I actually got 2 letters this week from a company, which I won't name, that said it was time for me to renew my LLCs, because I have LLCs for my investment properties. It's a scam. It is a company that charges you money to renew your LLCs. And I threw them out, but my accountant just emailed me and said, hey, by the way, you're probably getting letters from this scam company. So no matter what it is, always don't jump, and make sure you save your codes, because you cannot call and say, I forgot my password on my wallet. They ain't giving it to you. So make sure you print it, you put it a couple different places, because you can never recover your wallet.
Yeah.
So, Steve, we have a question in the chat, and I just wanted to throw it out there. Maybe we can discuss this as we wrap up. April asks, can you talk through the idea you shared about owning a part of a historical home owned in a family? Are you saying the current owner will not own 100% of the property?
Yeah, good question, April. I love thinking through this stuff. And I think it's important to note that in most areas, if not, I would dare say all, but I don't know that to be 100% true, that, creating an NFT is different than deed. So, what's recognized by the county clerk is different than the NFT that could potentially be associated with that that specific property. Now, that being said, in the course of creating that NFT, there are lots of mechanics behind the scenes in creating that NFT. And so, as far as transfers, you can build in things like royalties, or that you retain 1% no matter what. So you always have a certain stake in it. Or you can say each time it transfers, you owe me 1% of whatever the transaction was. So this is really an innovative, fast-moving space that you can essentially program into these smart contracts and then into the NFT itself exactly what it is that you want. I mean, ultimately, as long as somebody will buy it, you can do it, and that's kind of where this is a little bit of the wild west. But just important to get that difference between deed and NFT. That currently deeds are recognized by the county attorneys, title companies, etc. NFTs are a separate thing, at least here in the U.S.
Thanks, Steve. And I just put it in perspective of certain other countries. We can't buy property because we can't own land there, right? And there are people where you lease the land. So there's all different things that are already happening in real estate. The NFT world will add more complexity, but once it happens, it'll be assumed that it's normal. So we'll see what happens. Like you said, the wild west. So that is our quick presentation on how you can articulate some of the biggest terms to our real estate friends and family who want to understand what is happening with crypto, blockchain, and NFTs. So thank you for being here. Steve?
Gwyneth, any topics that you wanted to dive into or questions that you had?
No, I think that you've covered it all. You mentioned some of the risks that can be eliminated, preventing wire fraud, for example. And thank you for the compliment on the Propy platform, that it's easy to use. And we do provide that level of security and immutability that's associated with the Ethereum blockchain platform. And we add that unprecedented layer of transparency. So visibility, transparency, and that is to the goal of building trust between the agent and their clients. And I think when you're dealing with some of these new standards that were once trends, building that layer of trust is really important.
Yeah, and I think another thing just to add on there is that a lot of times these new applications kind of feel like bolt-ons, and they become burdensome on somebody's business, and like they don't really fit in very well. Whereas the Propy platform really is integrated all in one place, from offer collection all the way through recording on the Ethereum blockchain. And so that, I think, is a really important aspect of how Propy specifically fits into this, is that makes it much easier to tie together all of the systems without having to put together this fancy tech stack that we all sort of dread in the real estate business. So it does connect a lot of the dots. Oh, Gwyneth, you're muted.
I think you're
yeah, sorry, I don't know how that happened. It is our goal to be that kind of one-stop shop for this transaction process. And we really owe it to our founders who had the vision for this a couple of years ago, and our advisors to create these breakthrough technologies, being the company that did the very first NFT sale of a real estate asset, so that we can help agents benefit their clients with all that you've just discussed with us today. It's been an amazing learning session, and it fits right into our Learn and Earn program. So I would invite anybody who's watching to take advantage of our Learn and Earn program, which you can sign up for. I think I'll just quickly share my screen, if I may, on how to do that. You could go to our website, and I'll put the link in chat, and sign up to learn. And it's our goal to help educate our clients and their clients on how to incorporate some of these principles that you covered today in the presentation. I will leave one statement, though. Nothing that we have said today should be construed as financial, legal, investment advice. So just with that caveat.
That's always the fun one. What I would say though, and encourage, is just dip your toe in, whether it's through learn and earn, whereby you're completing activities and therefore being rewarded, or you're just going and investing in some sort of crypto or some other passion project, just to dip your toe in. I think it's fun. It's a great way to learn and just figure out what this landscape looks like. And if you're already in it, the learn and earn is a great way to diversify and get some pro tokens in your wallets.
Excellent. Yes. And then also we have some fabulous recorded webinars on our website as well for you to learn additional information and blog posts. So I think you've left us with so many sound bites. I think we don't even need to ask you. It's just been an amazing presentation. So I think what we'll say is goodbye and thank you everybody who's joined. We'll see you next week. So Steve and Amy, we really appreciate being a guest on our webinar this week.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I'm Gwyneth Iredale. I'm a Senior Customer Success Manager here at Propy and signing off this week's webinar. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.